Story 1. The Performance Review. I should have seen it coming. The signs were there for months. My manager, Richard, had shifted from casual morning chats to curt nods in the hallway. My project assignments gradually became more tedious, less critical. Emails went unanswered. Calendar invites mysteriously disappeared. But I was desperate to keep this job. After being laid off twice in 3 years, I couldn't face another career setback. So I worked harder, stayed later, volunteered for the assignments nobody wanted. Just needs to show more initiative, Richard had written on my mid-year assessment. So I took initiative, developed a new tracking system for client retention, redesigned the department workflow charts, brought in 3 new client leads. The day of my annual performance review, I arrived early, portfolio of accomplishments tucked under my arm. Richard's assistant wouldn't meet my eyes. "He's expecting you. Go right in." Richard sat behind his mahogany desk, flanked by Denise from HR and Cameron, the VP of Operations. 3 against 1. Never a good sign. "David," Richard gestured to the chair across from him. "Please sit." I forced a smile. "Brought some materials to share. The retention tracking system has already reduced churn by 18%, and—" "That won't be necessary," Denise interrupted, sliding a folder toward me. "We've already completed your assessment." I flipped open the folder. Page after page of documented infractions. Late arrivals from 6 months ago. Aggressive tone in emails I'd sent under deadline pressure. A failure to collaborate with Marcus, who'd openly sabotaged my client presentation. "This is insane," I said, my voice rising despite my best efforts. "Half of these are completely fabricated. The other half are gross exaggerations." "Your reaction right now is exactly what we're talking about," Cameron said with a disappointed sigh. Then I saw it. The signature line on the final page. The termination date 2 weeks ago. "I don't understand," I said, looking up. "I've been coming to work every day. Nobody said anything about—" "We wanted to monitor your behavior once you knew your position was ending," Richard explained with clinical detachment. "Sort of an exit interview in real time." My mind raced back through the past 2 weeks. The new security badges everyone received except me. The team meeting I wasn't invited to. The company-wide email that somehow never hit my inbox. That's unethical," I sputtered. "Possibly illegal." "You signed the employment contract," Denise reminded me. "Section 8.3 explicitly allows for observation periods following termination decisions." I hadn't read the fine print. No one ever does. "Your keycard has been deactivated," Richard continued. "Security is waiting to escort you out. Your personal belongings have been packed and will be shipped to your address on file." I stood up, legs shaking. "So, that's it? 4 years of my life and I don't even get to say goodbye to my team?" "Your team has already been informed," Cameron said. "In fact, they've known for some time. We asked them to report any concerning behavior." My stomach dropped. The awkward silences when I entered the break room. The abrupt ends to conversations. My team hadn't been busy or distracted. They'd been watching me, reporting back to management. "You can't do this to people," I said, my voice hollow. "Actually, we can," Richard replied. "And we find it's the most efficient way to handle these situations." Security appeared in the doorway. 2 guards I'd greeted every morning for years now looked at me like I was a potential threat. "Oh, and David?" Richard called as I was being led away. "We'll need the client list you've been keeping on your personal drive. Company property, you understand." I froze. The list I'd meticulously built after hours, on my own time. My insurance policy for when, not if, something like this happened. "I don't know what you're talking about," I said, but the slight tremor in my voice gave me away. Richard smiled thinly. "Your company laptop activity has been monitored for months. We have screen captures, timestamps. Attempting to retain that information would constitute intellectual property theft. I'd hate to see this become a legal matter." As I was escorted through the open office, past the colleagues I'd worked alongside for years, no one would meet my eyes. Not even Marco, whose kid's college fund I'd contributed to when his wife got sick. Not even Sheila, who I'd covered for countless times when she needed to leave early. The final blow came at the elevator. Waiting there was Craig, my former assistant, now wearing a company badge with my title under his name. "No hard feelings," he mumbled, eyes darting away. The elevator doors closed on my career, my workplace relationships, my professional identity. I'd been erased while still showing up every day. A ghost who hadn't realized he was already dead. When I got home, I poured a whiskey and opened my personal laptop. I still had that client list, and I knew exactly which competitors would pay handsomely for it. But as I moved to attach the file to an email, my screen went black. A company logo appeared, followed by a message. "Remote access protocol initiated. Data recovery in progress." They were inside my personal computer. Had been all along. By morning, I'd discover my bank accounts frozen, my credit cards canceled, my social media accounts suspended. All for an investigation into potential corporate espionage. The horror wasn't that I'd lost my job. It was realizing I'd never had control in the first place. Story 2. The promotion. The email arrived at 2:17 a.m. "Congratulations on your promotion to Senior Project Manager. Please report to Conference Room B at 5 a.m. for transition briefing." I stared at my phone in the darkness, equal parts elated and confused. I'd been angling for this promotion for 18 months, but the timing was odd. Jim Corrigan, the current SPM, hadn't mentioned leaving. There'd been no formal interview process. And a 5 a.m. meeting? In my 6 years at Nexus Dynamics, I'd never seen the office before 7:30. Still, opportunities like this didn't come along often. I showered, dressed in my best suit, and arrived at the empty parking garage at 4:45 a.m. My footsteps echoed through the vacant lobby as I swiped my badge. Conference Room B was located in the executive wing, an area I'd rarely accessed. The lights were already on, the long table surrounded by 8 empty chairs. At the head of the table sat a single manila folder with my name on it. I checked my watch, 4:58 a.m. Opened the folder. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a list of names. 16 employees from various departments. No explanation, no instructions, just names. At precisely 5 a.m., the phone in the room rang. "Hello, Mr. Reynolds. Congratulations on your promotion." The voice belonged to Miss Winters, the enigmatic CEO I'd seen only at company-wide meetings. "I trust you've received the list." "Yes, I have, but I don't understand." "By accepting this promotion, you are now responsible for overseeing a necessary reduction in workforce. The 16 individuals on that list must be terminated by end of business today." My mouth went dry. "Terminated? All 16? Today?" "That's correct. Their severance packages have been prepared. Security has been briefed. HR will provide termination scripts when they arrive at 8 a.m. But why these specific people? Some of them are top performers. Carol in marketing just won the Innovation Award. Darius in engineering developed our flagship product. The selections have been carefully made based on criteria not disclosed to your management level," Miss Winters replied coolly. "Your predecessor found himself unable to execute this task, which is why the position became available." A chill ran through me. Jim was fired because he wouldn't lay these people off. Mr. Corrigan chose to resign rather than fulfill his responsibilities. He left the building at 3:30 this morning. His access has been revoked. My mind raced. Jim had 3 kids in college, a mortgage, a wife battling cancer. He wouldn't have walked away from this job unless... "What happens if I decline to proceed with these terminations?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "Then you would also be resigning, effective immediately. Without severance, references, or continuation of benefits, the task would fall to the next candidate in the succession plan." I glanced back at the list, recognized names of people with families, with medical issues, with financial struggles. People who'd mentored me, collaborated with me, trusted me. May I ask what criteria were used to select these individuals? You may ask, but I am not authorized to share that information with your level. What I can tell you is that the decision is final. I took a deep breath. I need to think about this. Of course, you have until 8 a.m. to decide whether you're accepting the promotion and its responsibilities. The terminations must be completed today, regardless of who oversees them. The line went dead. I sat alone in the conference room, staring at the list. Called my wife, but she didn't answer at this early hour. Tried Jim's cell, straight to voicemail. At 7:30, I walked to the break room for coffee. Found Alicia from the list, already at work, showing pictures of her newborn to colleagues. Saw Raj from engineering, working feverishly to meet a deadline he wouldn't be allowed to complete. At 7:45, Miss Winters called again. "Have you made your decision, Mr. Reynolds?" "I have," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "I'll handle the terminations." "Excellent. HR is waiting for you in conference room A. They'll provide the necessary documents and scripts. Security will be positioned discreetly nearby." By 9 a.m., I'd fired 3 people. By noon, another 5. Each meeting followed the same sterile script. Each employee was given 30 minutes to pack personal belongings. Each was escorted out a side entrance to avoid creating a scene. Nobody questioned why. Nobody fought back. They simply nodded, eyes downcast, and signed the severance papers. At 2 p.m., I approached Carol's desk. She looked up, smiled. "Hey, Mark. I heard about the promotion. Congratulations." I couldn't meet her eyes. "Carol, can you come with me to conference room C?" Her smile faltered. "Sure, everything okay?" 5 minutes later, she was in tears. "But why?" "My performance reviews have been stellar. I've brought in more new clients than anyone in the department." I stuck to the script. "This is a strategic restructuring decision. It's not a reflection on your performance." "Is it because I took those sick days when my father was in the hospital?" "I made up all the work. I even worked from his room." "It's not personal, Carol. The decision was made at levels above me." She wiped her eyes, suddenly calm. "They're making you do this, aren't they? This isn't you, Mark." I said nothing. "Jim wouldn't do it," she whispered. "That's why he's gone. And now you're doing their dirty work." I pushed the severance papers toward her. "It's a generous package, 6 months' salary, extended benefits." "And what do you get, Mark? Besides a fancier title and a bigger office, can you look at yourself in the mirror after this?" I couldn't answer. By 4:30 p.m., 15 people had been terminated. Only one name remained. Darius Johnson, the brilliant engineer who'd built the company's core technology. I found him in his workspace, surrounded by circuit boards and prototype designs. "Darius," I called. "Could I speak with you privately?" He didn't look up. "If you're here to fire me, you can do it right here." "How did you—" "Everyone's talking about it. The 16 people on the execution list. The sudden promotion of Mark Reynolds to corporate hatchet man." He finally looked at me, eyes hard. "I was wondering when you'd get to me. Conference room C would be more appropriate for this conversation." "No. If you're going to end my career here, you can do it in front of my work. The work that made this company millions while I was paid a fraction of its worth." Security appeared at the end of the hallway. I waved them back. "Fine. Darius Johnson, I regret to inform you that your position has been eliminated effective immediately." He laughed, a cold, hollow sound. "Do you know why we were selected, Mark? The 16 of us? It was a decision made at levels above me. It's because we know." He tapped his computer. "We know about Project Monarch, the backdoor access, the data collection, the things this company has really been doing with our technology." My stomach tightened. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Of course you don't. That's why you're still here and we're gone. Ignorance is job security." Security was approaching again. Darius lowered his voice. "Check server room B, 3rd rack, behind the blue cooling unit. There's a USB drive taped to the back. Get it before they wipe everything. Time to go, Mr. Johnson, said the larger of the two security guards. Darius stood calmly. I've already copied everything, you know. Sent it to multiple secure locations. This isn't over. As they led him away, he called over his shoulder, Congratulations on the promotion, Mark. Hope you can live with the cost. At 5:15 p.m., I reported to Miss Winters that all terminations had been completed. Excellent work, Mr. Reynolds. The board will be pleased with your efficiency. May I ask a question now that the task is complete? Certainly. What is Project Monarch? Silence stretched across the phone line. Then, I believe you've had a long day, Mr. Reynolds. Why don't you go home and rest? Your new office will be ready Monday morning. That night, I couldn't sleep. My wife celebrated my promotion with champagne, but I could barely swallow it. My phone was silent, no text from colleagues congratulating me. Only an email from HR with instructions to surrender my current badge and obtain new credentials with higher security clearance. At 3 a.m., I made my decision. Drove to the office while it was still dark. My old badge still worked. They hadn't deactivated it yet. Made my way to server room B. The USB drive was exactly where Darius had said it would be. I plugged it into my laptop. Files began to open automatically. Photos, documents, audio recordings. The true purpose of our consumer products. The data they collected. The government contracts. And then I understood. The 16 people hadn't been selected randomly. They weren't fired for performance or cost-cutting. They were fired because they had discovered fragments of the truth, and together they knew too much. Just as I did now. My phone buzzed with a text message. Unknown number. Mr. Reynolds, please report to Conference Room B at 5 a.m. for important updates regarding your new position. I looked at my watch. 4:17 a.m., exactly the same time I'd received the original email the previous morning. The cycle was beginning again, but this time, I was the one who knew too much. Story 3. Behind the Walls. When they renovated our office building last spring, they promised improvements. Better lighting, more efficient HVAC, modern amenities. Creating a workspace for the future, the email had said. None of us anticipated the sounds that would come after. I'm a senior copywriter at Bright Innovations, a marketing firm occupying the 12th floor of a downtown high-rise. Our office had always been unremarkable. Beige walls, utilitarian furniture, fluorescent lighting that made everyone look slightly ill. The renovation was supposed to change all that. For 3 weeks, we worked from home while construction crews gutted our floor. When we returned, everything looked different. Open concept, glass partitions, recessed lighting that mimicked natural daylight, sleek white walls. The first week back, everyone raved about the improvements. I had a new desk by the window with a view of the city skyline. The air felt cleaner. The lighting didn't give me headaches anymore. Then the sound started. At first, it was just occasional tapping inside the walls. Probably pipes settling, I thought. Old buildings make noise, nothing concerning. But the tapping had patterns. 3 quick taps, pause, 2 slow taps, over and over. Always from the same section of wall behind my desk. Do you hear that? I asked Connor, whose desk was nearest to mine. He shook his head, not looking up from his screen. Hear what? I pressed my ear against the wall. The tapping stopped immediately. That night, I mentioned it to our office manager, Vivian. The construction guys probably left something unfinished, she said. I'll call them tomorrow. The next day, the tapping was gone. Instead, there was scratching. Light at first, then more insistent. Like fingernails dragging slowly across the inside of the drywall. Mice, suggested Layla from graphic design. My old apartment had them. They make all kinds of noise in the walls. Maintenance came, inspected, found nothing. No entry points, they reported. No evidence of rodents. The scratching continued. Some days it was barely noticeable. Other days it was all I could focus on. I started recording it on my phone, But when I played the recordings back, there was nothing but office ambient noise. "You're imagining things," Connor told me after I made him listen to a 2-minute recording of silence. "Stress getting to you, man." Maybe he was right. I'd been working 60-hour weeks trying to land the Peterson account. Wasn't sleeping well, drinking too much coffee. But then came the whispering. It started 3 weeks after we moved back in. I was working late, alone in the office except for the cleaning crew down the hall. The scratching had been particularly bad that day, and I'd taken to occasionally knocking on the wall like you do to quiet a noisy neighbor. After one sharp knock, the scratching stopped. Then I heard it. "Help us." So faint, I thought I'd imagined it. A whisper from inside the wall. I pressed my ear against the cool surface. Nothing. "Hello?" I whispered back, feeling foolish. Silence, then. "They sealed us in." I jumped back, heart pounding. Called security from the lobby. "I think someone's trapped in our walls." The night guard, an older man named Elias, came up immediately. "Which wall?" he asked, flashlight in hand. I pointed. He pressed his ear against it, listened for a full minute, then shook his head. "Nothing, sir." "I heard voices," I insisted. "Someone said they sealed us in." Elias looked uncomfortable. "This building has history. Used to be people would claim to hear things, especially after renovations." "What kind of history?" He hesitated. "Not for me to say, sir. Company policy." I stayed until he left, then gathered my courage and approached the wall again. "Who's there?" I whispered. No response. The next day, I researched the building's history. Constructed in 1983, nothing remarkable, no major accidents, no reports of workers going missing during construction, nothing to explain voices in the walls. I did find one odd detail. Every 10 years or so there were renovations. Different floors, different companies, but the pattern was consistent. Major overhauls that seemed unnecessary given the building's age. That night, I chose to work late again. Waited until everyone left. Approached the wall. "Hello?" I called softly. "Is someone there?" The response was immediate this time. He came back, a different voice than before, female. "Who are you?" I asked. "How did you get in there?" Same as the others, working late, asking questions. My skin prickled. What others? What questions? About the renovations, about the sounds. They don't like questions. Who doesn't? Silence. Then scratching, more frantic now, moving upward along the wall. "They're coming," the voice whispered. "Don't let them know you hear us." The elevator dinged in the distance. Footsteps approached. The distinct click of hard-soled dress shoes on tile. I scrambled back to my desk, opened my laptop, pretended to work. Mr. Chambers, the building manager, appeared in the doorway. I'd never seen him on our floor before. "Working late, Mr. Harrison?" he asked, his voice pleasant but his eyes cold. "Deadline," I explained, gesturing to my screen. "Big presentation tomorrow." He nodded, glancing at the wall behind me. "Everything satisfactory with the renovations? No? Issues to report?" "Everything's great," I lied. "The new layout is perfect." "Glad to hear it." He smiled, revealing teeth too white, too perfect. "If you do notice anything unusual, sounds, temperature fluctuations, anything at all, you'll report it directly to me, yes? Not to maintenance or security." "Of course." "Good man." He turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, and Mr. Harrison, perhaps consider leaving at a reasonable hour in the future. Working too late, it isn't healthy." After he left, I sat motionless, heart hammering in my chest. The scratching had stopped. I packed up quickly and headed for the elevator. As the doors closed, I caught a glimpse of Mr. Chambers standing in our office doorway, watching me leave. That night, I couldn't sleep. The voices, the scratching, Mr. Chambers' warning, it all swirled in my mind. Was I losing it? Hallucinating from stress and exhaustion? In the morning, I arrived early, determined to examine the wall more closely. But when I reached my desk, Connor was already there, packing up my belongings. "What are you doing?" I demanded. He jumped, startled. "Oh, they didn't tell you? You're being moved to the interior office, better for focused work," they said. Who said? Management. Came down this morning. My new office was in the center of the floor plan. No windows, no exterior walls. Just interior drywall separating me from the break room and supply closet. "This is ridiculous," I told Vivian. "I need natural light. I can't work in a box." "Executive decision," she said, not meeting my eyes. "Nothing I can do." By lunchtime, I'd noticed something odd about my new office. The dimensions weren't right. The room measured 12 feet by 14 feet on the inside, but when I pasted off from the exterior, it was 14 by 16. There was space unaccounted for. 2 feet of space between my office and the next room. That afternoon, I made a show of leaving at 5 o'clock with everyone else. Then I doubled back, used my key card to re-enter the building, and took the stairs to avoid being seen. Our floor was dark except for the emergency exit signs. I went straight to my new office, closed the door, and examined the walls with my phone flashlight. The north wall, the one that should have backed up to the supply closet, had an almost imperceptible seam running from floor to ceiling in one corner. I pressed against it, felt it give slightly. Heart racing, I pushed harder. With a soft click, a section of wall swung inward, revealing a narrow passageway, just wide enough for a person to squeeze through. I hesitated, then turned on my phone's flashlight and stepped inside. The passage extended in both directions, running parallel to the regular hallway. The space was narrow, dusty, with exposed pipes and electrical conduits overhead. But what shocked me were the viewing ports. Small, glass-covered openings positioned at eye level along the passage, each offering a view into a different office or conference room. One-way glass. They could see out, but we couldn't see in. I moved slowly down the passage, looking through each port. Empty offices, dark conference rooms. Then I reached the port overlooking my old desk by the window. Someone was sitting there. Not a maintenance worker or security guard. Someone in a suit identical to what Mr. Chambers had been wearing. He was perfectly still, facing the wall I'd been hearing sounds from. As I watched, he turned slowly in my direction. Though I knew he couldn't see me through the one-way glass, his eyes seemed to lock with mine. He smiled. Then he lifted his hand and tapped on the wall. 3 quick taps. Pause. 2 slow taps. The exact pattern I'd been hearing for weeks. I stumbled backward, heart pounding. Had to get out of here, had to tell someone. But as I turned to retrace my steps, I saw a figure at the other end of the passage. Tall, motionless, watching me. I ran the opposite direction, deeper into the passage. It turned a corner, led to a metal door. I pushed through, found myself in a maintenance stairwell I'd never seen before. Down seemed safer than up. I clattered down the stairs, emerging on the 11th floor. Different company, different layout, but the same white walls, the same renovation signs thanking employees for their patience during the recent upgrades. I found the regular stairwell, ran all the way to the lobby. The night guard, not Elias, someone younger, looked up in surprise. "Sir, everything okay?" "Call the police," I gasped. "There are people in the walls. Secret passages. They're watching us." His expression shifted from concern to something else. Recognition. "Let me call someone for you," he said, reaching for the phone. But he didn't dial 911. Instead, he pressed a single button. "Mr. Chambers, that situation we discussed, it's happening now." I ran. Out of the lobby, into the street, didn't stop until I was blocks away. Called the police from my cell phone. They took my statement, promised to investigate. 2 officers went to the building that night, called me back an hour later. "We've done a thorough check," the officer told me. "No hidden passages, no one in the walls. The building manager was very cooperative, showed us every floor." "Of course he was cooperative," I said. "He's part of it. Check the wall dimensions, look for the seams." Sir, we measured several offices. The dimensions match the floor plans exactly. Maybe you should get some rest. Stress can cause. I hung up. The next morning, I called in sick. Then I called an old college friend who worked in architecture. Described the building, the renovations, the hidden passages. Sounds like a surveillance setup, he said. Some high-security buildings have them, observation corridors, they're called, but they're normally only in government facilities, not commercial office buildings. Why would they be watching ordinary office workers? He hesitated. There are rumors in the industry, buildings that collect data, not just electronic, behavioral, how people move, interact, respond to environmental changes. Human lab rats, essentially. For what purpose? Can't say for sure. Some think it's psychological research. Others say it's something to do with group dynamics and control mechanisms. I thanked him, then made one more call. To Layla in graphic design, the one person at work I actually trusted. "Hey," I said when she answered. "Quick question. That new guy sitting at my old desk, what's his name?" "What new guy? Your desk is empty. Vivian said you'd be working remotely for a while." My blood ran cold. "There's no one sitting there. A man in a suit. No one. Just your sad little plant that's probably dying by now." She paused. "Are you okay? You sound strange." I mumbled something about a mix-up and ended the call. That afternoon my doorbell rang. Mr. Chambers stood on my porch, flanked by two men in suits. "Mr. Harrison," he said pleasantly, "may we come in? We're concerned about your well-being." I slammed the door, locked it, called 911 again. By the time police arrived, there was no one on my porch. No evidence anyone had been there. The officer looked at me with growing concern as I described Mr. Chambers and his visit. "Sir," he said gently, "there's no building manager named Chambers at your office location. We checked yesterday. The manager's name is Wilson, and she's been running the building for 15 years. I don't go to work anymore. Sent a resignation email, moved to my brother's place in another state. But I still hear it sometimes at night. The tapping. 3 quick taps. Pause. 2 slow taps. And yesterday, I noticed something about my brother's apartment building. They've just put up signs in the lobby. Please pardon our appearance during renovations. Creating a workspace for the future. I'm leaving tonight. I don't know where I'll go. All I know is that I can't stay here, can't risk ending up like the others. Like the voices behind the walls. 4. The algorithm. I never wanted to work in HR. It just kind of happened. Business degree, entry-level coordinator position, then a series of promotions that landed me in the people analytics department at Centric Systems, a Fortune 500 company with 47,000 employees across 12 countries. My job was straightforward. Use data to make HR more efficient, analyze turnover patterns, optimize recruitment channels, identify high-potential employees, standard corporate stuff. Then came the algorithm. That's what our department head, Dr. Whitmore, called it. Always with that emphasis, like it deserved capital letters. The algorithm will revolutionize how we evaluate employee potential, she'd say during meetings, eyes gleaming with an intensity that made me uncomfortable. I was assigned to the implementation team. 6 of us, sworn to secrecy, working in a conference room that required special keycards to access. The room had no windows. No internet connection except through a dedicated server. Our phones were collected at the door. This is the future of performance management, Dr. Whitmore explained on day 1. The algorithm doesn't just measure what employees have done, it predicts what they're capable of doing, and more importantly, what they're likely to do. The technical details were complex. The algorithm ingested everything. Performance reviews, emails, meeting attendance, keycard logs, even cafeteria purchases and printer usage. It monitored keyboard activity, analyzed writing patterns, tracked social connections within the company. It's like having a digital twin of every employee, explained Raj, our data scientist. A complete profile that updates in real time. My job was to translate the algorithm's outputs into actionable HR recommendations. Essentially, I was the human face of an inhuman process. The first red flag appeared 3 weeks into implementation. The algorithm flagged an employee named Diane Chen for negative trajectory potential. According to the system, Diane, a mid-level marketing manager with stellar performance reviews, had a 78% probability of performance decline within 6 months. But her metrics are excellent, I argued during our review meeting. Customer satisfaction scores in the 90th percentile. Team morale ratings above average. She just closed the Westridge account. Dr. Whitmore smiled thinly. The algorithm sees patterns we can't. Trust the process, Nathan. 2 weeks later, Diane was placed on a performance improvement plan. Her manager cited concerns about future contributions, but couldn't provide specific examples when Diane pressed for details. I ran into Diane in the cafeteria shortly after. The confident woman I'd known for years looked hollowed out, eyes darting nervously around the room. "They're watching everything I do," she whispered. "Tracking my bathroom breaks, monitoring how long I'm away from my desk. My manager canceled my presentation to the executive team, said it wasn't a priority anymore." "I'm sure it's just temporary," I offered lamely. "Hang in there." She leaned closer. "Someone accessed my personal email from my work computer while I was at lunch. IT confirmed it. They're looking for something on me, Nathan, but there's nothing to find." A month later, Diane resigned. Her farewell email cited personal reasons. I couldn't shake the feeling that we'd pushed out a valuable employee based on nothing but an algorithm's prediction. But when I brought it up at our next review meeting, Dr. Whitmore dismissed my concerns. "The algorithm was right," she said. "Diane's replacement has already increased department productivity by 12%. The system works." Diane wasn't the last. Over the next few months, dozens of employees across the company were flagged by the algorithm. Some were demoted. Others were shuffled to different departments or put on impossible performance plans. Most eventually resigned. Meanwhile, the algorithm identified high-potential employees who received promotions, raises, and special projects. The pattern was clear. The algorithm was reshaping the company's human landscape, one prediction at a time. I started looking more closely at the data, noticed trends that disturbed me. Employees over 50 were disproportionately flagged for declining trajectory. Women who had recently returned from maternity leave showed lower engagement potential scores. Employees with chronic health conditions often received excessive absence risk warnings. When I pointed this out, Raj shrugged. "The algorithm isn't biased, it just reflects patterns in the data." "But what if those patterns reflect existing biases in the company?" I pressed. "Not our department's problem," he replied. "We just build the tools." I couldn't let it go. I started documenting cases, created my own spreadsheet tracking employees flagged by the algorithm and their outcomes. The patterns became increasingly clear and increasingly troubling. Then one morning, I arrived at work to find my keycard no longer opened the door to our special conference room. "System upgrade," explained the security guard when I called for help. "You'll need to see Dr. Whitmore for a new card." I found her in her office, typing rapidly on her laptop. She didn't look up when I entered. "Nathan," she said, still focused on her screen, "please close the door." I did as instructed, then took a seat across from her desk. "Is there a problem with my access card?" I asked. She finally looked up. "There's been a change in project personnel. You're being reassigned to the recruitment analytics team." I felt a cold wave wash over me. "Why?" "Your recent activities have shown a concerning pattern of divergence from company objectives. You've been spending company time on unauthorized data collection and analysis." My mouth went dry. "You've been monitoring my work?" "The algorithm monitors everyone, Nathan, including the implementation team, especially the implementation team." She slid a printout across the desk. "This shows your risk projection." It was a graph with my name at the top. A steady green line tracking upward for years, then a sharp downward plunge into red territory beginning exactly when the algorithm implementation began. According to this, you have an 89% probability of becoming an internal security risk within the next 3 months, Dr. Whitmore continued. The highest risk score in your department. Because I question the ethics of what we're doing. Because your behavioral patterns indicate decreasing loyalty, coupled with increasing interest in sensitive internal operations. Your browser history shows multiple searches for terms like algorithmic bias, employee surveillance laws, and whistleblower protections. I felt sick. Every keystroke, every search, all monitored and analyzed. That's personal research, I argued, on my own time. On company equipment, Nathan, and the algorithm doesn't differentiate between work hours and personal time. Patterns are patterns. She closed her laptop. You have 2 options. Accept reassignment to recruitment analytics, a lateral move with the same salary but no access to the algorithm's core functions. Or tender your resignation, effective immediately with 2 months severance. And if I go public with what we're doing here? Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Then, the algorithm has assessed a 94% probability that your future employment prospects would be severely compromised. Your personal credit score would likely experience a significant decline. Your social media presence would encounter numerous technical difficulties. These aren't threats, Nathan. They're statistical probabilities based on historical data. I stared at her, the full implications sinking in. The algorithm doesn't just predict behavior, it shapes it, forces compliance. It optimizes outcomes, she corrected, for the company and ultimately for employees who align with company objectives. I took the reassignment. What choice did I have? 3 kids in college, a mortgage, a wife with chronic health issues who needed our insurance. For 6 months, I kept my head down, analyzed recruitment data, avoided the 6th floor where the algorithm team worked, stopped documenting patterns, deleted my research. But I couldn't stop thinking about it, about Diane and the others who'd been pushed out, about the fundamental wrongness of being judged not on your actions, but on what a machine predicted you might do. Then came the email from an anonymous address. Subject line, "They're watching you." The body contained just 1 line. Check your personal devices. That night, I took my phone and laptop to a friend who worked in cybersecurity. He found the spyware immediately. "Military-grade stuff," he said, whistling low. "Whoever put this on your devices can see everything you do, hear everything you say when your devices are nearby. They've been recording you for months." I left my phone and laptop with him. Bought a burner phone. Started using internet cafes for research. Created new email accounts. 2 weeks later, I received a USB drive in the mail. No return address, no note. I plugged it into a public library computer. It contained thousands of internal company documents. Emails between Dr. Whitmore and the executive team. Technical specifications for the algorithm, and most damning of all, a document called Compliance Enhancement Protocols. The document detailed how the algorithm didn't just predict behavior, it manufactured outcomes. Selective information restriction, communication delays, resource allocation adjustments, all designed to nudge negative trajectory employees toward failure and positive trajectory employees toward success. It wasn't just monitoring us, it was controlling us. That night, I received a text on my burner phone. "They know you have it. Leave town now." I looked out my window. A black SUV was parked across the street. 2 men in suits sat inside watching my house. I grabbed the go-bag I'd prepared weeks ago, slipped out the back door, made my way to the bus station through back alleys and side streets. As my bus pulled away, my phone buzzed with a final message. "The algorithm has assessed your probability of successful whistleblowing at 12%. Good luck." I turned off my phone, watched the city lights fade behind me. They're right. The odds are against me. 1 person against a massive corporation with resources I can't imagine. But they missed something important in their calculations. I don't need to succeed completely. I just need to introduce doubt. Get enough information out there that people start asking questions. Help other employees recognize the patterns I saw. The algorithm may predict behavior, but it can't account for the human conscience, for the fundamental desire to be judged for what we actually do, not what some black box system says we might do. And by the time they read this, my account of what happened, it will already be too late, because I've sent copies to journalists, regulators, and employees across the company. The algorithm gave me a 12% chance of success. I'll take those odds. Story 5. The client meeting. The meeting request from Vanth Industries came on a Tuesday morning. Subject line, potential high-value engagement. The client name alone made my pulse quicken. Vanth was the white whale of the consulting world, a tech conglomerate with tentacles in everything from biotech to defense, known for their secretive operations and astronomical budgets. Landing them would mean instant partner track for me. They specifically requested you, Alex, my supervisor Linda said during our morning check-in. Something about your work on the Meridian project impressing their CTO. I hadn't worked on anything called Meridian, but I wasn't about to correct a potential misunderstanding that had landed Vanth in our client pipeline. When you've been grinding 80-hour weeks for 5 years, you don't question good fortune. The meeting is at their headquarters, Linda continued. Tomorrow at 9 p.m. 9 at night? I asked, surprised. Most client meetings happen during business hours. Their exec team works unusual hours. Something about syncing with their overseas operations. She handed me a folder. Standard NDA, sign before you leave tonight. The NDA was anything but standard. 42 pages of dense legalese with clauses I'd never encountered before. Restrictions that extended beyond my employment with the firm. Penalties that seemed excessive even by corporate standards. I should have read it more carefully, should have asked our legal department to review it. But I was already imagining the bonus, the promotion, the respect that would come with landing Vanth. So I signed. The next evening, I arrived at Vanth headquarters precisely at 8:45 p.m. The building was a glass and steel monolith downtown, all sharp angles and tinted windows. The lobby was deserted, except for a security guard who checked my ID with unusual thoroughness. 53rd floor, he said, handing me a temporary access card. They're expecting you. The elevator required both the card and a fingerprint scan. As it ascended, I noticed there were no button options for floors between the lobby and the 53rd, as if the middle of the building didn't exist. The doors opened to reveal a reception area with black marble floors and walls lined with screens showing abstract patterns that shifted slowly. No windows, despite being near the top of the building. No receptionist either. "Mr. Mercer," a voice called. A tall, thin man in an impeccably tailored charcoal suit approached. "I'm Daniel Hayes, Special Projects Director. Thank you for coming at this unusual hour." He led me down a hallway where the lighting seemed to follow us, illuminating our path while the rest remained in shadow. We entered a conference room where 4 people sat around a glossy black table. No papers, no laptops, just small black devices in front of each person. "Alex Mercer," Hayes announced, as requested. A woman at the head of the table nodded. "I'm Elise Weaver, CTO. These are my colleagues, Dr. Saunders, Mr. Chen, and Ms. Velasquez." They didn't stand or offer to shake hands. All wore similar dark suits. All watched me with the same unnerving intensity. "Please sit," Weaver gestured to an empty chair. "We've reviewed your consulting profile extensively. Your work on behavioral prediction algorithms is particularly relevant to our needs." I'd never worked on behavioral prediction algorithms. My specialty was supply chain optimization. But again, I wasn't about to correct a potential client. "Happy to hear that," I said, settling into the chair. "What exactly is the project you're considering us for?" Weaver touched her device, and the lights dimmed. A holographic display appeared above the table, something I'd seen in tech demos but never in an actual business setting. "We're developing what we call the Integration Initiative. Weaver explained, as a complex network of nodes and connections rotated above us. A system that optimizes human resource allocation across organizational boundaries. Sounds fascinating, I said, though the explanation was purposefully vague. What's the core problem you're trying to solve? Dr. Saunders spoke for the first time. Inefficiency in human systems. People are unpredictable. They resist optimal allocation. They cling to outdated roles. The initiative aims to solve that fundamental problem. Something in his tone made my skin crawl. The way he said people, like he wasn't one of them. I see, I said, though I didn't. And how exactly does my firm fit into this? We need external validation of our methodologies, Weaver said. Your team would be embedded with ours, full integration, complete transparency. Chen slid a document across the table. Our initial proposal. The compensation package is on the final page. I glanced at the number and nearly choked. It was 10 times what our largest client paid annually. This is substantial, I managed to say. We value exceptional talent, Velasquez said, studying my reaction with unblinking eyes. Are you exceptional, Mr. Mercer? Before I could answer, Hayes placed a small device on the table. For security reasons, we need a biological signature before proceeding further. Just a formality. It looked like a streamlined fingerprint scanner. What kind of biological signature? Standard biometric profile, Hayes said smoothly. Fingerprint, pulse, body temperature. All non-invasive. I hesitated and placed my thumb on the device. It felt warm, almost hot. A quick pinch, like a needle. Did it just take my blood? I asked, pulling my hand back. A microfluidic analysis, Saunders explained casually. Part of our security protocol. I was about to object when Weaver touched her device again. The hologram changed to show what looked like my resume, but with details that weren't accurate. Projects I'd never worked on. Skills I didn't possess. Your work on the Meridian Predictive Behavior System is particularly impressive, she said. Tell us more about your methodology for reducing resistance variables. I had 2 choices. Admit I wasn't the expert they thought I was and lose the potential client, or bluff my way through and figure it out later. I chose the latter. We found that transparency in objectives reduces resistance significantly, I improvised. When subjects understand the benefits of optimal allocation, compliance increases exponentially. Weaver and Saunders exchanged glances. Something passed between them. Satisfaction? Amusement? Interesting, Saunders said. Our data suggests the opposite. Transparency increases resistance. Subjects who understand the full implications of optimization often reject it, even when it benefits them. A chill ran down my spine. Subjects, not employees or participants. Subjects. Tell me, Velasquez leaned forward. What would you do if you identified an organizational element that couldn't be optimized? An element that consistently resisted integration? The question felt like a trap. I tried to understand the root cause of the resistance. Sometimes what appears as inefficiency serves a purpose we haven't recognized. A diplomatic answer, Chen said with a thin smile, but impractical at scale. Sometimes removal is the only efficient solution. The room suddenly felt too hot, too airless. Something was very wrong here. I think I need to consult with my team before we proceed further, I said, standing up. This project seems more extensive than I initially understood. Hayes appeared at my side. Of course. But first, we'd like to show you something. A demonstration of our current progress. Before I could object, he was leading me out of the conference room and down another darkened hallway. The others followed in silence. We stopped at a heavy door with no handle, only a biometric scanner. Saunders placed his palm on the scanner. What you're about to see is covered by your NDA. Breach of confidentiality would have significant consequences. The door slid open to reveal what looked like a control room. Multiple workstations faced a glass wall that overlooked an enormous open space below, like a call center, but with hundreds of identical workstations arranged in perfect concentric circles. People sat at each station, all wearing the same gray attire, all performing the same movements in eerie synchronization. Typing, pausing, checking screens, typing again. Phase 1 of the integration initiative, Weaver announced with unmistakable pride. 342 units functioning at 94% optimization. Units? I echoed, staring at the people below. Former employees from various corporations, Jen explained, now fully integrated into our system. As I watched, an alarm sounded at one of the workstations. A person, a man about my age, had stopped typing. He was looking around, confusion evident even from our elevated position. 2 figures in black approached his station. Without resistance, the man stood and followed them to a door at the edge of the floor. None of the other workers looked up or acknowledged what was happening. A unit experiencing integration failure, Saunders noted clinically. It will be recalibrated. Recalibrated? I turned to face them. What does that mean? You signed an NDA, Mr. Mercer, Hayes reminded me. Perhaps you'd like to see the recalibration suite as well? No, I said quickly. No, I think I've seen enough for today. I'll need to discuss this with my team before... Before what? Weaver asked, her voice suddenly harder. Before you decide whether to report what you've seen? Before you convince yourself there's something unethical happening here? I didn't say that. You didn't need to. She nodded to Hayes. The biological signature confirms it. You're not who we thought you were. My heart sank. There's been a misunderstanding. I never claimed to work on the Meridian project. No, you didn't, Saunders agreed. That was the test. The real Alex Mercer would have corrected us immediately. He's been working on Meridian for 3 years. For us. The implications hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't a client meeting. It was something else entirely. Who are you people? What is this place really? We told you exactly what this is, Jen said. The integration initiative, the optimization of human resources, the elimination of inefficiency. And you, Velasquez added, are an unexpected variable. Someone who looks exactly like one of our key consultants. Someone who managed to activate his building access without triggering security protocols. This is insane, I protested. I'm just a consultant. My firm sent me here for a meeting with Vanth Industries. There is no meeting, Weaver said coldly. Vanth doesn't take outside consultants. We received no communications from your firm. You are here under false pretenses. I backed toward the door, but Hayes was blocking it. There's been a mistake, I insisted. Call my supervisor, Linda Grayson. She set this up. She gave me the NDA. We've already done so, Hayes replied. There is no Linda Grayson employed at your firm. The number you've been communicating with doesn't exist. Ice formed in my veins. That's impossible. Saunders stepped forward, studying me with clinical detachment. Your biometric profile is fascinating. Genetically identical to Alexander Mercer, yet your neural patterns show significant divergence. You believe you're him, don't you? You have his memories, his identity, but you're not him. Of course I'm me, I shouted. Who else would I be? A remarkably successful anomaly, Saunders murmured, more to himself than to me. The question is, how did you emerge without triggering our monitoring systems? Weaver touched her device. The glass wall suddenly displayed my face alongside another identical face. Same features, same eyes, same small scar on the left cheek from a childhood accident. Alexander Mercer, she said, pointing to the image on the right. Currently in our secure facility in Colorado, working on Phase 2 of the initiative. And you, she pointed to the left image. My image, captured by some hidden camera in this very room. An identical match with no record of existence before 3 years ago. The room seemed to tilt around me. 3 years ago, I was working at McKinley Partners. Before that, I was at business school. I have records, a history. Implanted memories, Saunders said with something like admiration. Possibly the most successful consciousness transfer we've achieved yet. You genuinely believe you're him. This is absurd. I pushed past Hayes toward the door. No one tried to stop me. I'm leaving. You're all delusional. The elevator won't respond to your card anymore, Weaver called after me. And I think you'll find your phone has no service, but by all means, try. I ran down the hallway back toward the elevator. Swiped my card frantically. Nothing happened. Pulled out my phone. No signal, as she'd predicted. Footsteps approached behind me. Unhurried, confident. You're experiencing the standard rejection response, Hayes said calmly. It happens to most duplicates when they encounter the truth, a protection mechanism of the human psyche. I'm not a duplicate, I insisted, pressing myself against the wall. I'm Alex Mercer. I have a life, an apartment, friends. Of course you do, Saunders said, joining Hayes. We provide thorough integration for all our prototypes. You weren't meant to become self-aware of your nature. You were meant to live out your designated life cycle, providing valuable data on alternative neural pathways. The elevator doors suddenly opened. Inside stood a man. My mirror image. Same face, same height, same build, but dressed in one of those black suits with an ID badge that read, Alexander Mercer, Special Consultant. He looked at me with detached curiosity. Fascinating, he said in my voice. It really did work. Subject 7 actually believes he's the original. My legs gave out. I sank to the floor staring at the man who had my face, my voice. Don't be alarmed, he said, crouching down to my level. You're an important advancement in consciousness replication. The first to develop a completely coherent alternative life narrative. This can't be happening, I whispered. I have memories. A childhood. Parents. Based on my own, he said gently. With variations introduced to test neural plasticity, you're not a failure, you're a breakthrough. The first duplicate to achieve true belief in your constructed identity. Weaver and the others had gathered behind us, watching the interaction with a detached scientific interest. What happens now? I asked, my voice barely audible. The other Alex, the real Alex, stood up. Now we learn from you, how your consciousness developed, how you created such an elaborate alternative reality. It will help us refine the process. The process of what? I demanded. Creating more people like me? Why? The integration initiative isn't just about optimizing existing human resources, Weaver explained. It's about creating better ones. Humans engineered specifically for their functions. No resistance, no inefficiency. Perfect integration. I looked from face to face, searching for any sign of empathy, any crack in their clinical detachment. Found none. You'll be comfortable, the other Alex assured me. The research facility has excellent accommodations, and your contributions will be invaluable to the advancement of human optimization. As if on cue, the elevator doors opened again. 2 figures in black waited inside. Please, I begged. I have a life. People who know me, they'll look for me. No one will look for a person who never existed, Hayes said. By morning, your apartment will be empty. Your position at your firm will be filled by someone else. Your digital footprint will be erased. The few people who interacted with you will have their memories adjusted. That's not possible, I insisted, even as a terrible certainty settled in my gut. 3 years ago, we would have agreed with you, Saunders said, but we've made remarkable progress. The subjects rarely even notice the adjustments to their memories. The other Alex, the real Alex, nodded to the figures in the elevator. They approached, took my arms with gentle but irresistible force. This is kidnapping, I protested weakly. People will notice I'm gone. No, Weaver said with calm certainty, they won't. As they led me to the elevator, my doppelganger placed a hand on my shoulder. If it helps, think of this as coming home. In a way, you're simply returning to where you began. The elevator doors closed on their impassive faces. We began to descend, not to the lobby, but downward, far below ground level, to places not marked on any building directory. The figures beside me stayed silent during the long descent. I tried to organize my thoughts, to find some evidence that would prove them wrong. Childhood memories. My first bicycle. Breaking my arm in 3rd grade, my mother's voice, my father's laugh. But now doubt had crept in. Were these truly my memories? Or implanted ones, borrowed from the man with my face? The elevator finally stopped. The doors opened to reveal a sterile white hallway. "Welcome to the Integration Center," one of the figures said. "Please follow us to processing." I stepped out of the elevator, legs shaking. A thought struck me. A desperate, final hope. "If what you're saying is true," I said, "if I'm just a copy with implanted memories, how do you know he's the original? What if he's another copy who just happened to be found first? What if we're both copies, and the real Alex Mercer is somewhere else entirely?" The figures exchanged glances but said nothing. As they led me down the gleaming corridor toward whatever awaited me, I clung to that single doubt, that tiny crack in their perfect certainty. Because in that doubt lay the only hope I had left, that somewhere, somehow, there was still a real life waiting for me, a life that wasn't designed in a laboratory or implanted in my brain, a life that was genuinely mine, even if I could no longer be certain what that meant. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe for more horror stories on Moonlit Scarecrow.